Arteta took off the player who just hit the post and brought on the player who gifted Haaland the winner. That's it. That's the game. That's the title race right there in 2 sentences. I've been sitting with this for a few hours now, and I'm not angry in the way I was after some of our other results this season. I'm not ranting. I'm not emotional in a messy way. I'm just confused, and maybe that's worse. Because when you lose at the Etihad and Haaland scores, the easy thing is to go, well, what do you expect? It's City, it's Haaland, that's football. But that's not what happened today. What happened today was something much more frustrating, much more specific. And if Arsenal are going to let this title slip, and I genuinely don't know if they will yet, but if they are, I think today will be the game people point to. Not because of what City did, because of what Arsenal did to themselves. I'm Amelia. This is the channel where we go deeper than the headlines, and today we are going very, very deep. If you're an Arsenal fan watching this, I need you to drop something in the comments right now. One question: who do you blame most for today? Arteta, the players, or just bad luck? Because I have a strong view on that, and by the end of this video, I think you might share it. Let's set the scene. Before this game, Arsenal were 1 point ahead of Manchester City. 1 point, and City had a game in hand. So this wasn't a must-win, but it was a must-not-lose. You go to the Etihad, you take a point, you keep that gap, you keep the pressure on yourself and off your opponents. That was the job. And for large parts of this game, Arsenal were doing exactly that. They went in level at half-time, 1-1. And honestly, it wasn't a fluke equalizer. It wasn't backs against the wall stuff. Kai Havertz read the press, got his foot on Donnarumma's clearance. The ball went in. Smart. Aggressive. Exactly what Arteta wants from his forwards in those moments. So at halftime, Arsenal were level at the Etihad against the reigning champions. Haaland hadn't scored. The game was there for them. And then something happened. Not all at once, gradually, like watching the air slowly leave a room. But here's the thing, and this is where I want to slow down, because I think this part gets missed in the reaction. Arsenal didn't just concede and run out of steam. They actually created chances after the break too. Havertz went clean through. He was in on goal. Donnarumma saved it. Fine, great save. But Arsenal were creating. Eberechi Eze, turned onto his left foot, sold a dummy, and curled one against the post. Against the post, in the second half, at the Etihad, in a title 6-pointer. That moment. I want you to think about that moment, because that is the moment the story pivots. Not Haaland's goal, not the final whistle. That moment. Eze, the post, the groan. That is where this game was decided. And not in the way you might think. Now, here's the part I need you to really focus on, because this is where I think Arteta made the decision that could define Arsenal's season. He took Eze off. He took off the player who just hit the post, who had been one of Arsenal's most creative forces, who had been causing problems, who was clearly in the game. And he brought on Gabriel Martinelli. Now, I want to be fair here. Managers make decisions in the moment. They see things we don't always see from the outside. Martinelli is a first-team player. These are reasonable options. But what happened next? Within minutes of coming on, Martinelli gave the ball away, centrally. Soft loss of possession, right in the middle of the pitch. City broke. They won a corner from the resulting chance. And from the chaos of that corner, Haaland scored. Haaland scored, and Arsenal lost. Now, I'm not saying Martinelli caused the goal. Football doesn't work in straight lines like that. But I am saying the sequence is impossible to ignore. You take off your in-form attacker. You bring on a substitute who immediately loses the ball in a dangerous area. That leads directly to the moment Haaland wins the game. Tell me I'm wrong. Go on. Tell me that's just a coincidence, because I've been trying to convince myself it is, and I can't. And this is where it gets serious, because the Eze substitution doesn't exist in isolation. It connects to something bigger, something that has followed this Arsenal team for the last 2 or 3 seasons now. In the biggest games, in the moments that define a title challenge, Arsenal find a way to make the wrong decision. Not always dramatic, not always obvious in real time, but looking back, almost always traceable. Last season, different games, different moments, same feeling. A crucial substitution, a tactical shift that didn't make sense. A player left on who was struggling, while a player sat on the bench who could have changed things. And I'm not trying to build a case against Arteta. I think he's a brilliant manager. I genuinely do. The work he's done at this club is extraordinary. But there is a pattern here, and patterns matter, especially when the margin is 1 goal and 1 game in hand. Let me talk about Gabriel for a second, because I think he gets slightly let off the hook in the conversation about today, and I don't think that's right. Gabriel was emotional today, visibly emotional. The kind of emotional where you're playing with your heart and your pride, and sometimes your head isn't fully in control. He made a huge block early on, brilliant, brave, a defender putting his body on the line. That side of Gabriel is why we love him. But there was also a moment later in the game, a clash with Haaland, where the referee could absolutely have shown him red. And if that had happened, I think we're talking about a very different scoreline. And then, for City's second goal, for the winning goal, Gabriel lost Haaland. Now, losing Haaland isn't a personal failure. The man is the best striker on the planet. He does things to defenders that shouldn't be physically possible. But in a game of this magnitude, in a title race this tight, you cannot give Erling Haaland that much space inside the box. You just can't. And I say this with love, because Gabriel has been enormous for this club. But if Arsenal are serious, and I mean truly serious, about competing at the highest level, next season and the season after, we have to ask the question: is Gabriel the right partner for Saliba against the very best strikers in Europe? I think that question deserves a real answer, not a defensive one, a real one. And this is where it gets tactical, because I want to break down why Haaland was even in that position. For large parts of the second half, Arsenal were doing well defensively. Saliba was commanding. Hincapié on the left was one of Arsenal's best players. His block on Semenyo was outstanding, by the way. Clean, decisive. Exactly the kind of defensive action that wins points. But when Martinelli came on, and I keep coming back to this, the defensive shape changed slightly. The press became slightly less organized. The transitions became slightly more chaotic. And Haaland feeds on chaos. That's what people forget about him sometimes. Yes, he's a goal scorer. Yes, he's physically extraordinary. But he's also incredibly intelligent. He reads the moment. He reads when a team is slightly disorganized, slightly hesitant, and he punishes it. Arsenal gave him that moment. Arsenal, through their own actions in the second half, created the conditions for their own defeat. Now think about this. The title race right now sits on a knife edge. 1 goal separates the top 2. City have a game in hand against Burnley. If they win that, and they should, they go above Arsenal. 1 goal, 1 game in hand. And Arsenal's response to being level at halftime in a title 6-pointer was to make a substitution that most fans watching were baffled by in real time. Not in hindsight, in real time. I saw the reactions on social media as it happened. I saw the confusion, the "why is Eze coming off" responses flooding in while the substitution board was still being held up. And then Martinelli lost the ball, and then Haaland scored. And it was like watching something inevitable unfold. That's the worst kind of defeat. Not the ones where City were just better, not the ones where you got outclassed or overpowered or tactically dismantled. The ones where you look back and see the exact moment your own team handed it over. Let me talk about the players who did well, because this isn't entirely a story of failure. Martin Zubimendi, I want to give him real credit today. In arguably the biggest game of Arsenal's season, in the most intense atmosphere in English football, the Spaniard was controlled, assured. He connected play. He protected the defense. He showed why Arsenal fought so hard to get him in January. William Saliba, quietly excellent. One moment in particular, the goal line clearance. The referee's whistle came before it was needed, technically, but Saliba was there, body on the line. That kind of intervention matters. That's a leader. And Eze, before he was taken off, hit the post, created problems, was building into the game. The bones of a team that could win this league are absolutely there. But bones don't win titles. Decisions do. I keep coming back to Ødegaard, not in a way that's unfair to him. He's our captain. He's had a difficult season with injury, and I think he's been trying to find that form. But today, against a City press that came in waves, Ødegaard struggled to assert himself. The rating reflected it. 6 out of 10. And look, a 6 isn't terrible. But in a game of this magnitude, you need your captain to be the one who grabs it, who imposes himself, who makes something happen. And the fact that Arteta chose to keep Ødegaard on over Eze, a player who was visibly affecting the game, I think that tells us something. Maybe about loyalty, maybe about Arteta's belief in his captain, maybe about how he reads in-game momentum. But whatever the reasoning, the outcome spoke loudly. Right, I want to zoom out now, because I think there's a version of this story where Arsenal fans spiral, where we go into full crisis mode, where we convince ourselves the title is gone, Arteta should be questioned, the squad isn't good enough, all of it. And I don't want to go there, because I don't think that's the right response. Here's what's actually true. Arsenal created 4 genuine chances at the Etihad. 4. Against the best defensive structure in English football. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen unless you are a very good football team. Hincapié was excellent. Mosquera, on his first real big test, was solid enough. Havertz pressed intelligently and took his goal with composure. There is real quality here, real belief, real tactical clarity for most of the game. But, and it's a big but, real quality isn't enough at this level. You need real decisions too. So let's talk about what happens next. City play Burnley. If they win, and I'd be very surprised if they don't, they go top by 1 goal on goal difference. Arsenal will have to respond. The run-in matters enormously now. Every game, every squad decision, every substitution, and that, right there, is what makes today so costly. Not just the 3 points, but the psychological weight it adds to every remaining game. Now, Arsenal play knowing that if they drop points anywhere, not just the big games, but anywhere, it may already be too late. That pressure is real. Arsenal's squad has felt it before. That feeling of being right there and somehow watching it slip. I don't want that again. None of us do. But I also genuinely believe this group of players, led by Arteta, is capable of responding. I just need them to make better decisions in the moments that count. Because here's my final thought, and it's the one I keep landing on, no matter which angle I approach this from. Arsenal are good enough. I believe that completely. Watching this team over the course of this season, the press, the organisation, the quality in wide areas, the set-piece threat, the defensive solidity, this is a title-winning team in terms of quality. But title-winning teams don't just have quality, they have composure. They have the right calls at the right moments. They have a manager who sees the game clearly in real time and makes the decision that protects the lead or chases the goal, or manages the emotion on the pitch. And today, in the specific moments that decided the game, those calls weren't right. Eze stayed on, maybe Arsenal get a draw. Maybe Trossard's late cross gets converted. Maybe Havertz's header drops in instead of over. We'll never know. But we do know what the decisions that were made led to. And that has to sit with Arteta, not just as a one-off moment, as part of a pattern that, if it continues, will keep Arsenal as nearly men. I don't want Arsenal to be nearly men. I want Arsenal to be champions. And for that to happen, next season, this season, whenever it comes, the decisions in the big moments have to be better. That's the video. I want to know, do you still believe Arsenal can win this title after today? Honestly, yes or no? Comment below. And if you think I'm being too hard on Arteta, tell me that too. Push back. I want the debate. That's why we're here. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We do this after every big Arsenal game. Deep analysis, real opinions, no filler. See you for the next one.